Hello and welcome to the Goal Setting webinar. I'm very pleased you're here. Today, of course, we're going to be talking about goal setting, and I think it's something that's rather overlooked with horse training. You know, what we tend to do is we tend to have sort of really big goals, and we don't get specific enough about them. And there's a lot of things we can do to really help our performance in the end by setting goals and being very systematic about doing that. Way back in the 1960s, I think it was Edwin Locke came up with the goal-setting theory of motivation. And what he found was if you set goals, then your performance improves. And that was way back in the 60s. And since then, I think it's always good to start a discussion like this by talking about that famous Harvard study. And it's a Harvard Business School study, and I've written the stats down here because it's really important. And what they did was they interviewed graduates over a period of 10 years. So they introduced them when they first started at Harvard Business School, and then they interviewed them again 10 years later. And what they found was 84% of the intake when they started Harvard Business School had no goals at all, just no goals. 13% had goals, but they weren't written down. And 3% had clear written goals. Now, 10 years later, they came back to interview those same people again, and they found that the 13% that had goals but not written down were earning twice as much as the 84% that had no goals at all. And even more interesting, the 3% that had clear written goals were actually earning 10 times the amount as the 97%. So they were earning more than the 97% combined, or 10 times the amount of the 97% that had either no goals at all or goals that weren't written down. So it just shows you've not only got to have goals, but you've got to write them down. And I think another thing there, which we don't talk about enough, is accountability. So I think also sharing. I'm going to talk a little bit about SMART goals. We've all talked about SMART goals. We've all heard about SMART goals. I'm going to talk to you about how they apply to your horse training and why they're important and what you could do to make your goals achievable. So we'll just walk quickly through this SMART goal thing, and you'll find that in the training. I know that some of you listening today will be gold members, and inside the training there is a module on goal setting, and we do talk about SMART goals there. So the first thing with SMART goals is the S, that's specific. So we need to be very specific about the goals we're setting. I was speaking to somebody on the internet this morning, and they were saying that, you know, what they want to be able to do is ride their horse, get on their horse, which they haven't been on for a couple of years, and feel confident and secure that they're not going to get bucked off. So not be scared, yeah? It's a great goal. It's a really good goal. It's really specific, you know. They've just said, have a ride. So that's great. You know, you might want to actually even define that even more. So say, okay, my goal is at the end of 2 months, let's say, to be able to ride this horse in a certain area at walk or at trot, and feel confident and comfortable with that. Write it down. Write it down. So it has to be specific. It also has to be significant. Like there's no point in having a goal that isn't significant to you. And, you know, in this situation that we're talking about here, if you haven't been on the horse for a couple of years and you've lost your confidence, and I know because the gold program starting right now, we're talking about bringing your horse back to work, and quite often the horse has been out of work because the rider's fallen off or had an injury or something like that. But quite often we're dealing with these confidence issues when we bring the horse back to work. So it's extra important that we have these goals, these really specific, significant goals. And they also have to be stretching, which is, you know, at the last of our S words. there's no point in my setting myself a goal for the horse that I'm bringing back to work, in 6 weeks to be able to ride him around the round pen at trot, because I know that I'm going to be able to do that in 2 days. So, even if he's been off for a couple of years, I know I'm going to be able to do that in 2 days because I know all about his foundation training. So, it needs to be stretching. Now, for me, with this example, I would say 6 weeks with this horse I'm bringing back, canter. I want to be able to canter him outside the round pen. Now that's a specific goal. It's very significant because I haven't done it before, and it is very stretching. So I've got all those 3 things for the S all set. So the next letter is M. It has to be measurable. And this is something, that is really obvious in weight loss, or health, or just generally, it even is in horse training. I want to get more confident. You can't measure that. It's not a good goal. That won't work. It's like, I want to get thinner. That won't work. I want to get healthier. It won't work. And it's not measurable. We need to actually have something that we can write down and measure. Am I there? Am I not there? Because otherwise, what we can't see are those little steps. So if we take my goal of wanting to canter my horse outside the arena, I can measure my progress towards that goal by, okay, am I trotting outside the arena yet? Am I cantering in the round pen? I can see the steps that are going to lead me there. So that's really important. It needs to be meaningful. And, most of us with the horse riding goals are going to be meaningful because, you're either it's safe or it's not safe. Isn't that right? Really, if I can canter the horse outside the arena, I'm only doing that because I'm confident and I'm feeling safe. So it's very meaningful to me. And it needs to be motivational. And I think, again, with most of the stuff we do with our horses, or all our horse training, is highly motivational because it's about us, it's about our relationship with our horses, and, it really is about achieving some fabulous things for both us and our horses. And the more we train the horse, the stronger our bond is. And so it's always very motivational. The other thing about motivational is that we need to record wins. Like, we need to record small wins. And what they've found is that small wins are your motivation. If you set the goal of wanting to ride your horse outside the arena, but you don't, you're going from not being able to ride the horse at all to riding outside the arena, you don't have much motivation. Like, it's quite hard to get there. So you lose your specificity and your measurability. So recording your small wins is very important. And this is the so we're having a bit of a problem with the feed. So this is all about the specificity. Now, the big thing with the can-do training and the small wins is the checklists. Okay, so for each thing that you're teaching your horse, print off your checklist or use it in your workbook. But the checklist is a list of small wins. That's exactly what it is. So every time you do something with your horse, you colour in that square, and it's a record of how much you've achieved. So you go from red, the horse not knowing it, to orange, the horse sort of getting the idea, to a green box, and your horse has got it. And when you look down that list, you can see over the course of time, each time you've done this lesson, how the horse is improving. And it's hugely motivational for you because you can see the progress. It's often difficult to see progress when we're with the horse, when we're seeing the horse every day or every week, however often we're working the horse. It's very difficult to judge progress like that. So it's why it's so important that you use those checklists. That's what they're for. Use them, print them off, or use them in your workbook and mark down your progress, because those small wins are your motivation. So the next one is A in our SMART goals, and that's attainable. So it has to be attainable or achievable. There's no point, my setting my goal, which was canter my horse outside the arena. There's no point in my sort of saying, oh, I want to take my horse to the Olympics, because it's not attainable. It's never going to happen. So, make it something that you can do. If the horse, was lame, had an injury, and was probably never going to be able to canter, then again, it's not an attainable goal. So make sure that you're not setting yourself up for failure, that you're setting yourself up for success. Attainable doesn't mean it needs to be a small goal, but it needs to be achievable. So the other thing is action orientated. You have to have a goal where you can go out and do it. You actually have to have a goal that you can take action on, because the only way to reach your goal is to take action on the goal. So the next thing is the R, and we want a goal that's realistic, which is a bit what we talked about with the being attainable or achievable. So a realistic goal, a relevant goal, so something that we want to be able to do. Like for mine, a prelim dressage test would also encompass taking the horse, having the horse in canter in an arena, but I didn't want to do a prelim dressage test. So it's not a relevant goal for me. I don't want to go and compete. So, we need something that's relevant and something that's rewarding. So if it's not relevant to me, it's not going to be rewarding. Whereas, being able to get the horse to canter outside in the open, then that is rewarding to me. And the final one is time-based, and trackable, time-based and trackable. And these are, really important things, because our goals, they absolutely have to be trackable. We can't track them, then we don't know whether we're going to achieve them or not. They have to be time-based, because there has to be an end to this, because then we need our next one. Once I can canter my horse in the arena, hell, I want to canter it on the beach, or I want to do something else. We've got another goal. We're not stopping with this goal. And so I think that is a really important aspect, setting that time. So we're saying with this course, we run through it in 6 weeks. So what happens at the end of 6 weeks, I should be able to achieve my goal. The person I spoke to this morning on email should be able to achieve their goal of having their first ride on their horse and feeling confident. And then what you do is you set a new one. And what I often find, especially with the foundation training and the can-do work, is that once you get to that goal, once you've reached that goal, the first thing you usually want to do is start back at the beginning. Because what happens is the better you get, the more you realize how much more there could be. Once you get over that, oh gosh, I can canter in the arena, not the round pen. Once you get over that, you go, oh wow, I wonder if my canter could be a better quality. I wonder if my horse could be rounder. I wonder if my horse could be softer. I wonder if my horse could be more attentive. And I wonder if I could take this into the field or to the beach or to a competition. You go there, and so your goals, you're really raising the bar every time. And I've found this a lot. And once you get to a certain level, what I really like to do with horses is take them right back through that training. So I start again with the give to the bit. I really do. Now, people listen to this and they say, oh gosh, I don't have time to do that. I've already got up to this level. But it doesn't take much time, because all you're doing is you're going back and refreshing what you did before, but you know so much more now. You know so much more, your horse knows so much more, and you know your horse so much better. The combination is amazing. So it doesn't take long, but I think it is quite important that you go back and address each lesson in turn, because you'll take, for example, you'll give to the bit from here to here, and then you'll go, okay, wow, that's much better. Hey, my horse is much more attentive, much more responsive, really soft in the bridle and in self-carriage. So that's gone to here. My shoulder control now suddenly feels like it's down here. So then you go to shoulder control and address that, and it goes boom. And then you go to your hind quarter control, and on it goes. And, you know, every time you do that, you realize when you get to this point that seemed so unattainable just a month ago or 6 weeks ago, you realize, oh, that's interesting. I wonder if I went back, I could do this. And you can. And it is a sort of never-ending cycle. And I think that's the thing about foundation training. Every foundation or every achievement, every performance is based on this foundation. So this foundation is a solid thing that's down here, and the performance goes up like that. But the thing about the foundation work is that it's always there. You know, it's not stagnant. It doesn't stay down here. It comes with you, and it just gets stronger and stronger and stronger. And so if you're teaching, say you're teaching flying changes, the foundation for flying changes is in your self-carriage, it's in your shoulder control, it's in your hind quarter control. And these are all your foundation lessons. So when you go to teach flying changes, you come back to that. And so I'm just reading a comment there from Susan. So my question is, you've talked about it already, I'm confused about how we set timelines for our goals at the same time not push our horses. Yeah, okay, it's a great question, Susan. I will get you there in a minute. So, you know, the foundation is always improving. The foundation is always sort of getting bigger and stronger, and it's with us the whole time. It's not something we leave behind when we get to a certain level. So it's something we always come back to. Now, Susan's question about timelines, and I think that a timeline, you know, is a bit of a movable feast, isn't it? So what you've got to do, and it's with any lesson that we teach the horse, you know, you go out with your goal. My goal today for my horse might be, if I wasn't sitting by the river, might be to get shoulder control, to a pivot on the forehand, on the hindquarters, on the left side. That might be my goal. We write down, so I'm going out to teach the horse. The horse knows give to the bit. The horse knows shoulder control on the right. I'm going to do the left side today, and this is what I want to achieve. And I might get out there, and the horse is going really well. Oh, this is fantastic. You know, not only have I got shoulder control to a pivot on the hindquarters on the left, but, you know, I've also really improved the right side, and I think I might even do a bit of hindquarter control work. So that might happen. Or I might go out and the horse is like being distracted by something, and I'm thinking, oh gosh, I don't even have give to the bit today. This is ridiculous. Where am I? What's wrong with this horse? And I say, okay, well, let's regroup. Let's rethink. I always look at this as, I just tell myself it's another learning opportunity. So what's gone wrong? Well, what's gone wrong is something's happened, and what you thought was a really strong bubble of communication when you were doing the give to the bit, the horse seemed to be, you know, in the engagement zone, you seem to be building this really strong bubble of communication. Then suddenly something's happened, there's a tractor in the field next door, or all the other horses are going crazy, or it's a really windy day, whatever's happened, and the horse is just out there. So it's a great learning opportunity, because you can say, oh, okay, well, the horse's emotional level's gone way up like this. So what am I going to do about that? And how can I take advantage of that? So the good thing about that situation is you don't have to increase your horse's emotional level much. You do have to a little bit. But you can say, right, I'm going to take this opportunity while the horse is up here emotionally to work on relaxation, to bring the horse back into my bubble of communication. I'll work on give to the bit because it's the simplest exercise. And I'll bring that horse back into the bubble of communication, back into the engagement zone. And then tomorrow when I come back to do the shoulder work that I wanted to do today, the horse is going to be that much better. So it hasn't taken you away from your goal. Your goal is still there. What it's actually done is it's added to your foundation. So your foundation's a little bit stronger. Because if your foundation was already strong, you wouldn't have been surprised by that. And so when you're surprised by how the horse is behaving, you're missing something. It's just an indication that there's a hole in your training. And say, great, thank you, horse, because that is, I'm going to go and fill that hole now, because I don't want to find that hole later when I'm, riding on the beach or something. I want to find that hole now. And so you say, great, that's great. And it's like, Susan's just saying that the letter B suddenly surprised her horse. I love the way the horses do that. It's like, whoa, where did letter B come from? And so she went back to give to the bit. And that's what I love about Give to the Bit, is that it's such a simple exercise. It's pressure release. And I know there's a lot of you at the moment that are working with bitless bridles. Well done. Congratulations. And I'm going to be making a module for you about doing exactly the same thing with a bitless bridle. But Give to the Bit, a no bit, for a few minutes, gets the horse back into the engagement zone and builds that bubble of communication. So yes, you've had a bit of a setback, but wow, not only have you returned to where you were before, but it's that much stronger. Your foundation is that much stronger. So I think every time you come up against an obstacle like that, you have to look on the positive side of that. You have to take that as one of your wins. And I talked a bit earlier about, recording your wins. Use those checklists, because they are. Every time you check off a box on that checklist, you're recording your small win. And everything, all these goals we're achieving are about small wins. We don't go out and train a horse overnight. It's a systematic process. And by checking it off on your checklist, you record that. And it has been shown that having small wins is very motivational. And so that's what the checklists are all about. Every time you do it, so when your little mark on there moves from red to orange, that's a win. You've made an improvement there. And it might be just the smallest thing. It might be when you, how relaxed your horse was when you were tacking it up. It could be something really simple, but it's a win, and you've recorded it, and they have shown that that is motivational for you. Whereas if you don't record any of that, it's very hard to see the progress. So I do encourage you to use those checklists. That's what they're for. You'll find one for each lesson in the workbook. And you'll also find a template in the workbook that you can just photocopy and fill in, so use for anything. And they're also downloadable with each lesson. So, if you've got 6 horses, download 6, print off 6 and use them. I think the final thing I want to talk about in our goal setting webinar today is sharing and accountability. And I think that the great thing about the Can Do Equine community is how supportive it is. And because of that, it makes it really easy for us to share information in there and be accountable. So do please take advantage of that. And we were talking yesterday on Facebook actually about sending in video. And I think it's a great idea. And I've just put on a new module, and you'll find it in the resources section. If you go to the resources section, and the first subcategory in there is something called student voiceover lessons. Now, go in there and you'll see an example, which is a trailer loading lesson. And somebody who sent me their trailer loading lesson, they were quite pleased with how it went, but I've voiced over it, and I've given her some tips to tell her, where to stand and when to reward and things like that. Just a few things that weren't quite right timing-wise, and where she was standing, that are going to really help. And I encourage you to send me your video as well, if you'll let me use it like that. Because what I like about that is that, she said it's fine for everyone to watch this. So everyone can learn from that. And it's, I always try and show you in the lessons as many mistakes as I can. I always think, if I've made a mistake, then, I'll save you and your horse from having to go through the same thing. I show you what the most common mistakes are. But if we can have some examples from you that I can voice over, it will help a lot of other people as well. So I think that's a really good way of sharing, and it's a really good way of helping others in the Can-Do community. So if you're willing to do that, either have a friend video you or spouse, or, you know, if you've got a GoPro or something, video yourself by all means, or just set the camera up in a position that's useful, where, you know, we can see as much as we can. And send it to me. Now, you can send it to me, you can upload it to YouTube. You can upload it to YouTube. Just make sure it's downloadable for me, or Dropbox or Google Drive, anywhere that I can download it from the internet. When I download it, I put it onto my program, my voiceover, and then I'll upload it back onto the Can-Do Equine Goal site for you, and I'll tell you when that happens. Anyway, so that is it from me for today. I'm sorry we dropped out in the middle. I'll download this and hopefully it all comes out and you can watch the replay, and if it doesn't, let's just make it again. I will talk to you soon and inside the training. Thanks for coming. Bye.